Oh, I still hear music. Why do I hear music? I still hear somebody else's music. Okay, we're going to start in like a minute, just letting everyone know. There is on your So if anybody doesn't have headphones on, it's really helpful if you do, because that way you don't hear the feedback. And I'm going to make sure that that's done on my side too. Okay, so we're going to get started. We have one person. Okay, let's give it till 11:03. Make sure we have at least a couple people online. So a couple of things to note. There is a chat button in the upper left-hand side, like right here in the window. You can hit that and then enter messages to me. There's also a Q&A button, so you can hit that and ask me a question, and I will keep track of those so that I can see them as they come up. And I'm just waiting a few more minutes to make sure we've got everybody. unfortunately, if we don't get at least one other person on, I'm probably not going to run the webinar. We had about 20 people RSVP, but for one person, it's probably not worth it. We're just waiting on anybody else to join. I'll give it till like 11:08 and we'll see what's up. Hi, one binder who's on. We are waiting to see if anybody else shows up. If they do, then I will absolutely continue with the webinar, but it's hard to do it for one person, as I'm sure you understand. Two. Yay! Okay. So I'm going to go through. Hopefully somebody else will pop in at some point because two is a very lonely number. Okay, so first of all, can you guys do me a favor, the Grandmaster two of you, and look at the little chat button right in this part of the screen. This means that you can chat while I'm talking. If you look at the Q&A button right here, you can also ask me questions as I'm going. Understand. Hi, no worries. Thank you. Okay, so, but there are indeed two of you, so I'm going to keep going. Okay, so here's the site that we are going to create. This is a very basic site. Hold on, I need to screen share. So what this site does is basically give the most basic information that you need to be able to be found on the web and to list all of your works and to offer information about them. And again, it's 1 hour. It's a very quick overview, but it gets you on the web. So I'm just going to do a quick overview of what we have. We have a preview image. We've got your name. We've got what kind of writer you are. We have an about the author with some photos. You will see that every time I do one of these, I use pictures of my dog because I've run out of other stuff. We have a menu here with some basic items that every writer would need. Books. So here are all my books. In case you didn't know it, I, of course, wrote the Harry Potter books. Just kidding. Any other works that you have? For instance, these are other pieces that I've had published, a blog, and a contact page. We have a contact form. So we're going to go ahead and get you guys set up with something similar. So now, in order to do this, let's turn the screen share off so that you can see me again, because I'm sure that's what everyone wants. in order to, sorry, I don't see a chat button. It should be in the way upper left-hand corner of your screen, and you can click on it. If not, feel free to just use the Q&A, and we can just go ahead and utilize that. Okay, no worries. All right. So as I'm going through, if you need to, go ahead and just ask questions in the Q&A, and I'll try to address them. I'll try to keep my eye on it. Okay, so there's some things that you're going to need in order to make this work. You can definitely do this with me as I'm going through. This entire thing is recorded, so you can go back through and watch it. You don't have to take extensive notes, and I'll give you the link to it. I'm going to reference code at some points. Don't worry, I'm going to copy and paste it into the Hangout so that you can access it in the future. You don't have to like scribble mad notes. And in order to replicate the site that I'm doing, it means you're going to have to do some work with your photos, which obviously you have not done previous to this. So it's not a problem. What I would suggest is probably watching the walkthrough and then attempting it on your own. You know how to get a hold of me via Facebook. So if you have questions, just ping me and we'll do that. Okay, so the basic thing I want to start with is, what is WordPress? WordPress is what's called a content management system, or a CMS. A CMS allows you to create a website without knowing very much about websites generally, HTML, programming language, etc. WordPress is a very popular one. It powers about 25% of the web. So WordPress comes in two flavors. That's four. This is two. It comes in WordPress.com, which is what we're going to do today, which means it's hosted for you already. It's already set up. You have some limited options, and you can use those, and that's pretty easy and great. You can also roll your own WordPress, but that requires a huge jump from WordPress.com to doing it yourself. If you ever want to take that leap, feel free to talk to me. I'm happy to give you some tips. But what we're doing today is setting up something that is free, easy, and takes about an hour to do. Okay, so that covers WordPress. So now let's talk about domain names. So domain name is what you type into your web browser to arrive someplace. WordPress is going to allow us to set up kind of a temporary domain name. It will also show you how to get your own domain name should you want. It's, I think, $18 a year, which is about average. Somewhere between $4 and $20 is what you should expect to pay. WordPress makes it a little bit easier for you, and that's why we charge a little bit more. So here is what you want to do for a domain name. This is kind of the rule. Ideally, it should be your name. Like in my case, it would be amandablum.com. Well, as that happens, I wasn't quick enough with that, so somebody else got that. There's a lovely Amanda Blum in England. So then I would go with something like amandablumwrites.com, amandablumwriter.com, amandablum.books.com. The general rule that I like to tell people is, when it comes to domain names, imagine that you are in, you're walking Grand Central Station, and you see somebody that you haven't seen in a while. They're walking towards you, and you're walking this way. And you only have a moment to catch up with them. And you say, hey, it's so great to see you. Hey, yeah, catch me on the web. I'm at blah, 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 blah.com, right? Your domain name should be so easy to understand that you could tell it to somebody and they wouldn't question what the spelling is, what word you use. It shouldn't sound like another word. It shouldn't be overly long, things like that. Those are surprisingly important as it happens. So I think that's part of why you see these really long domain names coming out. You know, I didn't know what I was doing.com. Well, that is long, but I could very easily yell at somebody across a train station and they would know exactly what it was and be able to find me. And that's pretty important. Okay, so let's go and take the next step, which is getting you on to WordPress.com. So again, I'm going to switch to screen share. So you're going to be seeing my screen and not me. But again, ask questions in the Q&A, and I will try to keep track of those and answer them as they come. Okay, so. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is go to wordpress.com. And, since the last time I did this talk, I'm going to sign out and start new. Actually, quite a bit has changed at WordPress.com. So, all right, so when you arrive at WordPress.com, this is what you see. Let me make sure you're seeing this. Yes, you are. Excellent. Okay, so this is what you see, and you're obviously going to hit the big button in the middle that says Create Website. Okay, we're going to pick any theme. It doesn't matter. We're going to change that later. And the next thing you're presented with is, what should your domain name be? Again, this is where I talked about the fact that we're going to get a temporary domain name right here, but that you could, if you wanted to, get your own domain name for $18 a year. Okay, so now I need to make sure they have a domain name for me. In this case, I'm going to say Clementine Dog, and it's going to tell me if that name is available. It is. clementinedog.wordpress.com for free. So I'm going to say select. Okay, now I'm going to select the free plan, and we'll discuss a little bit about what you get if you do pay. And I'm going to put in my email address. Whoops. So a username and a password, and there we go. Create a strong password. Okay, so now it's creating my account. Okay, so it tells me that I need to set up an activation, which is fine, and I will do that. But in the meanwhile, let's go on to customizing. Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on, you're in the customizer right now, the site title. So the first thing I'm going to do is make this my name, the site title. So in this case, it's Clementine Dog. And the tagline should be something about what kind of writer I am. Remember, this is the first thing people are going to see when they come to your site. There we go. So now I'm going to say save and publish. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do now is, once this is saved, unfortunately it's being slow because I have Google Hangouts open, is I'm going to go to select a theme. Okay, so here you'll see a whole bunch of different themes. You can always change your theme pretty easily. And this is where people tend to get stuck, because this is pretty overwhelming, right? And now WordPress.com has free and premium themes. I'm going to make it easy by starting with what I think is a pretty good theme for this endeavor, and it's called Hemingway Rewritten. How appropriate is that? So I'm going to say preview, and then I'm going to say try and customize. Okay, and now it's starting to look a little bit more like this website that I've shown you, right? You can start to see how it comes together. Okay, so the first thing we have is my name is right here, Doggone Good Writer. But you could keep this image back here, but you could also change it. So in the customizer, which is where we are right now, I'm going to click on header image, and I'm going to add a new image. And you can just select these from your desktop. So I have put some aside. Here, I'm going to pick a picture of Clementine. Let's make sure it's big enough. There we go. So this is in fact big enough. Now I'm going to be asked to crop it, so it'll look right on there. And one of the things I want you to note, and it's particular to this theme, but because this theme has something right smack in the center, I want an image that the majority takes place on the left or the right-hand side. So I'm going to say crop this image. Been some kind of error. Let's try it again. that may be too big. Let's try, oh yeah, let's try this image of me. This may not be wide enough, but we'll give it a try. There we go. Crop image. Still having some sort of issue. So let's skip cropping. And there we go. All right. So now I have a picture of me, and I have the title that I need on top of it. But now we need to do a number of other things. Amongst them, we need to add a menu, and we need to add some content. So in order to do that, I'm going to save and activate. And when you're in WordPress, just remember, always be looking for this blue Save button. Okay, so here we are in the, once I've done that, here we are in sort of the dashboard of the website. Now, if you ever used WordPress.com previous to 3 weeks ago, it looked very, very different. There's been a massive overhaul of how WordPress.com works. What we're looking at is a new user interface called Calypso. It's definitely different, but it was made to be easier for people exactly like yourself who just want to come in and get done what they need to get done. All right, so what you're going to see here are blog posts, pages, menus, themes. We just set up our theme. Now let's go to pages, and we're going to add some pages. So the first page that I'm going to add is going to be contact. And in order for contact to work, it has to have something called a short code in it. And I am going to make this code available to you on the site as soon as we're done. But these are what are called short codes. And these short codes make certain parts of WordPress work. So what we're doing is creating a contact form. Here's the contact form in practice. Right, it's asking for name, email, phone, and basically what you want. And here's where we're setting it up here. And let's say that I wanted to add an additional name, or additional field here. I would copy one of these, paste in a new line, and say, let's make this name of your dog. Okay, just that easy. And now I'm going to say publish. Remember I said always be looking for that blue button? There it is. Okay. Now if I hit preview, it's going to show me what that page looks like. So within all of your pages, you have some additional options. Amongst them, what kind of page template to set up. In this case, we're going to set it up to be full width, no sidebar. And I'm hitting publish again, because we always want to save all of our changes. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to all pages, and I'm going to create another page. This one is going to be called Books. To put my books in here, I'm going to create a gallery. So I'm going to go to Add Media. I'm going to add these images I have of all of my books. That's them. I'm going to click open, and now it's going to upload. Theoretically, it's going to upload all of them. Okay, so now, because they're all selected, I can put them into the page, or if I needed to, I could click one of them off and say, I don't want to include that one, so let's unclick it, click it. Let's add this one instead. But basically, if I click on all of these, so do you see how they have a blue box around them? And I say continue, it's going to ask me about adding this gallery to my page. And it's going to show me what it's going to look like. Like, this is what it will look like. But for my purposes, right, we could do a circle. Circles aren't going to look very good. Tiled columns. Yeah, that definitely doesn't look that great. So let's go, or we could even do a slideshow, which is actually kind of nice, but not appropriate here. So we're just going to say individual images, and then we're going to say insert. And now all of those images are in my page, nicely lined up. So let's say that I want to go ahead and put a description underneath each of these, because that kind of makes sense. So here I am on Amazon. I'm going to grab the description. I'm going to go back. I'm going to say, I'm going to hit return. Put this in here. But now I'm going to have another line that says, purchase now on Amazon, okay? Because I want people to buy the book. So how do I make this work? Well, I'm going to go to Amazon, and I'm going to grab that link by copying and pasting it. Now I'm going to come back to WordPress. I'm going to select this text, and this is pretty important. I'm going to go up to the top, and I'm going to click on Insert Edit Link. I'm going to paste it in there, and I'm going to say, open in a new window or tab. So what that means, open in a new window or tab, is when somebody clicks on that link, they don't leave my website. It just opens up a new tab for them so that they can purchase it there. And you'll see here that now this is a link. And once I publish this, that's exactly what it's going to look like. So even though these would each be different, for the sake of demonstration, we're just going to copy and paste them in. Okay. And now we're going to hit publish. Because we're always trying to save what's here. So now I'm going to go back to all pages again. And I'm going to hit edit on the about page, which is kind of a default page that comes with WordPress. So I'm going to say, yikes. Okay, now it's frozen. Interesting. All right, let's try that again. About the author. And I'm going to put some lorem ipsum text in there just for the sake of showing you how this works. Okay. But let's say that I wanted to add a photo of me. So now I'm going to go to add media. I'm going to add a picture of me. I'm going to upload it. And I'm going to say insert. It is a very large photo of me with some very unfortunate colored hair. So I'm going to grab the corner and make it a little bit smaller. But you'll see also when I select the image, I get this little bar that pops up that tells me some information about what I can do with the image. So I'm going to click on Align Left, and that's going to make the text flow around it. So I'm going to add another picture. I'm going to go down to the next paragraph. This time let's make it a right aligned picture. So I'm going to add another photo. As always, my trusty steed. I'm going to insert it. Again, make it a little bit smaller. And this time I'm going to align it right. And when I click update, there we go. So now when I preview the page, this should theoretically work. There we go. Perfect. And you'll actually see up at the top here, do you see these are the different devices that you can see your website on. So this is what it would look like on desktop. This is what it would look like on your cell phone. Still holds pretty decently. Okay. So publish. And then we're going to go back. And it's actually saying that these are all drafts, that they haven't been published, so let's go ahead and publish them, publish this one, and publish that one. Oh, I think I need to validate my email address. So I'm going to take this off for a moment and go ahead and do that. Let's see if that is why it's behaving weirdly. In the meanwhile, it's just going to take me a moment to validate my email address. If you want to submit any questions to catch up to where we are, to make sure that I'm not moving too fast or that you understand everything that's been done so far, feel free to do that. Okay. Pages. I'm going to refresh this page. Hopefully it will tell me that I've activated my account. Yay! And let's go ahead and now see if it'll let us publish. There we go. Okay, so lesson learned. You have to validate your email address first. Okay, so now I've published all these pages. And now they appear under the Publish tab. So the next thing that we're going to do is go ahead and set up the menu. So we're going to go to Menus. And you'll see, actually, it's already putting all of the pages in here, which is great because that's exactly what we want to have happen. So now, if we go ahead and look at our website that we've been building for the past 15 minutes, here we go. So now the menu has changed a little bit, and we're getting closer to it looking like the original, right? So what's missing from here? Two things. A home page, the other works, and the blog. So let's go ahead and work on those next. So the first thing let's do is set a home page. And the way that we do that is by going to Settings down at the bottom. And you'll see here it revisits some of the items that we've previously set, the site title, the site type, etc. But underneath is a pretty important thing here, right? First of all, this is where you can add, if you decide you want to buy a domain name, you can go ahead and do that here. But also, this site visibility thing allows search engines to index the site. We want to make sure that's ticked because we want you to be able to be found by other websites, by Google, by Yahoo, by all of that. And as always, click Save. Here we're going to go ahead and site visibility, analytics. Okay, we're good. So let's go to Themes Customize, and we're going to set the home page. Down at the bottom here, you see Static Front Page. We're going to change this to be the About page. And we're going to click Save and Publish. Okay, so what we're seeing here is this is the theme template. So do you remember when we were on the page and I said we can change the theme template to make it full width? In this case, since we haven't done that, we can do that now. We can go to pages. We can always select that page and see now it's saying, oh, okay, about the author is your home page. We can go to page options, make it full width, and click update. Now, if I hit refresh here, now it's full width. So it's a little bit better looking. And the about the author has gone away and been replaced by home. Okay, so there are only two more things we need to do here in order to get where we need to be going. And that is we need to set up other works in your blog. And it's pretty easy to do so. So let's go back to your dashboard. So you have pages here, and now you also have blog posts. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go to blog posts, and we're going to click add. But the first thing that we're going to do is actually go to this section here on the left-hand side called categories and tags. And you see how it says uncategorized? We're going to click on add a new category. And the first category we're going to do is called blog. And we're going to click add. Okay, so now we have that new category. Now we're going to go again, and we're going to click other works. So now we have these other categories. So now any blog post that we do, we're going to put in one or the other of these categories. And if you do that, it's going to tell WordPress what to show and when. So for instance, let's make this a blog, and we're going to call this How My Dog Feels About Xmas. And let's grab some Lorem Ipsum text to put in there. There we go. And we're going to hit publish. There we go. Okay, so now let's actually create another post. And let's call this one, I actually have one of my articles here from XO Jane, so let's call it Facebook's Maybe Option is Rude. I'm going to grab the first paragraph, put it in here, and say, read the rest on xojane.com. And I can even grab the URL and link. Okay, and this time I'm going to put it into the other works category, and I'm going to hit publish. Okay, so now the only thing we have to do is make sure that we add them to this menu so that people can reach them. So we're going to go back to all posts. We're going to go to menu. And now we're going to add a new item. So in order to do that, let's say we're going to add it before books. That makes sense, right? So about the author, so we're going to add it above. We're going to go to category, and we're going to say add the blog right here. Now let's put other works after books. Go back to category. Add item. Now we're going to click save. Okay, so now let's see if it comes up. Oh, because it's showing the wrong menu. Let's edit this one to save. Okay. And click save. Okay. Sorry, it's being very slow because I've got Google Hangouts open, which means it's not saving everything that it's supposed to as I try to jump ahead. So Now what we've accomplished is we've gotten the menu looking exactly like it should. Here, if I click on blog, it's just going to show any posts that are in the blog category. And if I click on other works, it's just going to show items that are in the other works category. And you still have your books, and you still have contact. Okay, so the only other difference between these two sites is that we've customized the fonts a little bit, and that's actually also pretty easy to do. We're going to go to themes, customize, and here we can change a couple of the different colors. We can change the fonts. So if I go to font, I can say, I don't like this font. I would rather make it this font. That is absolutely horrible. Let's try. Still pretty bad. That's pretty decent. And then we can change some other fonts around. So you have the ability to play with these and make them whatever you want. And of course, you always hit save and publish. And then when you go back, and you can also change the colors. So for instance, here we have the two different ways that you can show this website. So if you want it with a white background, great. And if you want it with a gray background, easy. And actually, I can even change this to be a totally different color if I want. If I want it to be a very light, I can do that. Okay, save and publish. And that's pretty much it. So now if I go to the home button, the website that we've set up works exactly the way that it should, and you know how to affect all the different parts. So I'm going to go ahead and try to answer some of the questions, and again, feel free to answer more. So the first is, how can I find out where a website was made? And there's one referenced here. So there are a few different ways. Let's go ahead and look at the website in question. One is, I'm taking a bet this is a Wix situation. So like WordPress, there are other CMSs out there. Wix is one, Squarespace, this is going to be one of those. So the first thing that I usually do is I look at the page source, and it can tell you. Not telling me much. This looks like this is built in Bootstrap, so this doesn't use a content management system. This was built by hand. Does that help? Any other questions? Let me see. I think I can turn on your speakers so that you may just be able to ask me questions. Possibly, maybe. Any other questions? I'll leave it open. Oh, here, wait. If you want to buy your URL, you need to use a hosting site like Bluehost or GoDaddy, right? That's actually incorrect. So what you're talking about are two different things. You're talking about domain registration, which again is how you get your domain, and then you're also talking about hosting. And these are two totally separate things. Now, often, just to conflate the issue, hosting companies such as GoDaddy or Bluehost also let you purchase your domain names through them because they want things to be easier for you. So yes, you can purchase your domain name through Bluehost or GoDaddy, although neither of those are hosts that I would recommend. But you can also purchase it directly through WordPress.com. It is slightly more expensive, but there it is. So again, I'm in the back end. I'm going to domains. If I want to add a domain, I can do that here. I can search for the domain that I want, and depending on what it is, like clementinedog.com is unavailable, but Clementine Dog Writer probably is available. Yeah, it is. So that's $18 a year. So I can go ahead and add that here. So any host is going to let you do that. But let's talk very briefly about the necessity for one. I think it's a good idea to have your own domain name for a variety of reasons, whether it's to protect it from somebody else getting it, and also to make it easier to find. For the purposes of what we're doing today, you'll be easy to find. So christinelloyd.wordpress.com, totally fine address for now. In terms of hosting, if the only thing that you're going to do is have WordPress, I recommend going with a site that kind of does it all in one. So if you don't like WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, something like that. When you start to get into hosting companies like Bluehost or GoDaddy that say that they'll roll WordPress in for you, theoretically it's supposed to be easier, but it's really not. And in particular, as hosts go, Bluehost is pretty terrible. GoDaddy is slightly better, but neither of these are places that I would ideally go with. If you want to host that for things beyond WordPress, so you really want to roll your own, WordPress isn't the only thing you want to do with your domain, that's fine. Like a HostGator is pretty good. That's one I might recommend. If you want to roll your own WordPress and WordPress is it, but you don't like WordPress.com, you want more options, you want to be able to install your own plugins and such, I really like Pagely, WP Engine, sites like that. So that would be my recommendation. Any other questions? Sorry, I did try to turn on the ability for you guys to ask me questions live, but that doesn't seem to be working. So I will hang out and wait for other questions, and I will do so until you guys both leave the room. Is Wix free? My mic doesn't work. Wix, much like WordPress.com, Wix is kind of free, which is to say that all of these websites work relatively the same way. You can get very basic stuff for free, and then anything above that is going to cost you money. And that's just pretty standard. So for instance, at WordPress.com, you can get all your basic stuff, but now, like I did say earlier, I would go over this. You can upgrade your plan. So like for $99 a year, you get your own domain name, you get more customization options, you get to host videos there, and for $300 a year, you get support. Other websites like Wix and Squarespace are governed by a different license, which is not something I would normally go into in a talk like this, but is worthwhile to mention because it's part of the reason I did this free thing anyways. So WordPress has this very interesting license. It's part of the open source community, which means what the license means, and it's called the GPL, is that WordPress in and of itself must always remain free. The only thing that you can really be charged for are services related to WordPress. So in this case, WordPress.com is charging you for things like themes or domain names or support. That is not true on Wix and Squarespace, and there are tons of them out there like that. So they're slightly different. Part of the difference between them is who owns your information. The things that you put into the website are your content. So ideally, you want to own them. It's why most people who work with WordPress kind of went with WordPress. So that's something you want to be aware of. Okay, so one more quick question. If I'm understanding correctly, if I host with WordPress, then WordPress will be part of the URL. No, for free, WordPress has to be part of the URL. So I'm going to go back to domains here. So included with the site is a WordPress.com domain. But if I wanted to have my own domain, it's absolutely fine. I would be able to have it here, no big issue. I just have to pay them for it. So it's an extra on top of it. Okay, what's the best way to link my blog that exists through Blogger? Okay, so if you have a site on Blogger, you have a couple of different options. One is you can actually take the entire site in Blogger and import it into WordPress. If you have WordPress, not on WordPress.com, but if you have your own WordPress that you rolled on your own host, you go to the tool menu, you say import, and it offers you all kinds of different ways to import from sites like Blogger. If you don't want to do that because your Blogger site has some SEO, search engine optimization, in other words, Google can find it, then there are a couple ways. You can make the most recent post something that says on Blogger, something that says, I have moved, here's my new web address, from now on, here's where I'll be. You can put it in the header. I mean, but basically that's kind of what you're looking at. If you have a domain name that you purchased, not through Blogger, but you have a domain name that you purchased and you're currently forwarding it to your Blogger site, you would just redirect it now to your WordPress site. So hopefully that answered that question. Okay, so I own my name as a domain already. How can I link that domain here? Okay, so what you're actually not doing is linking your domain. You're doing something called redirecting it. So do you see here where it says already own a domain? Click map it. You're going to say what your domain is, and it's going to take you through the process of how to get it over here. And that UI is pretty good. So done. Okay, thanks so much. It's really helpful. Got to run. Have a great day. You too. Any other questions? I want to make sure I get everything answered. If I haven't answered your question, again, feel free to just ping me on Facebook as you go through this exercise. And again, I will absolutely put up all the notes and code and everything else that I did today. And if you need it, we will do it again. I'll give it another minute just to make sure you don't have any other questions. And I'm going to close it down. And again, just ping me through Facebook. Random Q, does XO Jane pay? They do. They pay, I think, $50 a post. What I would advise you is don't write for XO Jane because you need the money. Write for XO Jane because you really want to write for them. I don't write in fact, it's probably been about a year since I published anything with them. And they have just been bought by time. And it is over the past year, it's become a vastly different organization. But I still know people who write for them pretty happily. So, yeah. Okay, thanks so much, guys. If you need anything else, then ask me on Facebook. Thanks.